Now, residents from Inanda township north of Durban are calling on government to close local schools due to hygiene concerns. They claim that water shortages are affecting attendance at schools. Acting Deputy City Manager for Trading Services at eThekwini Municipality, Ednick Msweli, weighs in, joining us to expand the conversation. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, you're facing a major crisis here. What plans have been implemented to curb these water shortages in eThekwini Municipality?
Good evening, Paul, and once again, good evening to the viewers at home. Well, the situation facing eThekwini at the moment is the one around curtailment. I think we've communicated about that in the past. It's been established that what we are currently drawing from our dams, if not reduced, will lead to the dams being drained. And this is a conclusion that we have come to working with the National Department of Water and Sanitation. So all of us agreed that we need to curtail demand, and a way of doing that, the way we've been doing it, I should say, up to now, has been through rationing, opening supply to some areas at certain times and closing at certain times. So that is the reality we're dealing with. We don't have enough water to supply at the current rate that we are currently doing. So Inanda and the areas that you've mentioned are affected by the same phenomenon, in that there is a shortage of water to supply those areas. And I think I saw in your introduction earlier there, you even showed us at Mshiyeni, it's the same phenomenon there, where the water that we have is insufficient and we therefore had to curtail. So when you curtail, it's going to impact on the supply side, in that you're not going to, at some times, then you will obviously then run out of water. So that is what we are currently dealing with in the city of
I'm glad you touched on Prince Mshiyeni Hospital, because, having spoken to unions that have been protesting outside that hospital, calling for something to happen, because a hospital cannot operate the way that it has been operating with a shortage of water. How are you approaching that situation?
I think we've come to a stage where we've got to take steps that will reduce demand drastically and quickly. So what we've decided to do is implement the installation of water restrictors. And the reason we're going for that is that at least if you put restrictors at the point of at the meter, at the household level, then your network remains charged. In other words, you'll always then have water in your pipes. So that way you can see leaks when they happen. And then you can also perform other tests that one performs, like what we call minimum night flows. You do that sometimes if you want to see what happens in the early parts of the morning when people are supposed to be sleeping. So the theory is that in those times, the demand should be very low. So, but if you don't have water in your pipes, you can't even perform those tests. So, and that's why we've decided that throughout the city, especially in the areas that are experiencing intermittent water supply at the moment, that we are going to go there and install these restrictors. So we really are appealing to the residents to work with us and understand why we have to do what we have to do, because once we've got the restrictors in, then we'll be able to at least make sure that people get water all the time, even if it's not the volumes that they are used to, not the pressure they are used to, but at least there will be water all the time.
I'm afraid you haven't answered my question as we touch on Prince Mshiyeni and the conversations that are happening in the background around the urgency of that matter. A hospital operating without sufficient water supply, staff being tasked with carrying buckets into a hospital performing surgeries. That's unacceptable. What is happening behind the scenes to address this?
Our teams firstly have been there since the problem started. Unfortunately, it did take a bit of time to get to the bottom of what was causing the problem. But what we found is exactly what I've explained, that the demand was exceeding supply. And the reason we found that out, the way we found that out, was when we closed supply to other parts of the city that are fed from the same reservoir that supplies Prince Mshiyeni, like Klib, a hostel and the mall. There's a plaza in Umlazi. So when we closed supply to those areas, we found out that the water supply was restored at the hospital in Mshiyeni. So it did prove that what we were dealing with was the effects of this curtailment. So this time around, you don't have enough water to supply everyone at the same time. So we've been there since the problem started, and we've now seen improvement. So we've been working with the hospital In fact, we've even gone beyond the boundary, because we're supposed to stop at the meter. We've gone beyond the boundary and worked inside the premises of the hospital, working with their management to identify where the problem is and how we can change the way we operate so that the hospital can get water. And I can confirm that at the moment the hospital does have water.
What do you equate this crisis to? Would you say it was a lack of planning?
I wouldn't say so. I would say it's seasonal, because what we have found is that in the hot months in the city of eThekwini, demand goes up significantly high. That is from the months of October to about just after January, February. During those months, demand goes high. So that is what has happened. Now, your demand goes high during that period, and in the same period, remember, curtailment started in October as well, just when we entered the hot months of the year. So your demand was going high, but your supply was being dropped, because we complied in the months of October and the months of November with the curtailment requirements, which means we met the reduction in volumes. So while that was good, we met the targets in terms of reducing volumes. It meant then we had less water to work with, and obviously that impact will be felt on the ground. So I wouldn't say it's a lack of planning, no.
How big is this issue? Would you say it's affecting the entire metro? Is it isolated areas? How big is it? Because what we're reporting really looks like it's a massive part of the municipality.
This is, if I were to estimate, I would put it around maybe at worst about 15% of the city, because the areas that tend to get affected, firstly, it's rural areas in the main, but also even within the urban edge, it will be areas that are higher up. The low-lying areas most of the time will get water, but if you are higher up, then you're affected, because water, by its very nature, will go to the lower-lying areas. So if you are higher up, then you run out of water first. Yeah, but it's not everywhere. It's only in certain parts of the city.
What impact
the areas that you've mentioned.
What impact do you think the recent floods, in terms of damage to infrastructure, may have played, if any at all, to this problem?
I think very little, Paul, because when we experienced the floods, where we started restoring services was with water, and we spent a lot of time and effort restoring water supply. And then it was only afterwards that we really moved our attention to then dealing with the sewer issues, because that was also another mammoth task that we had to deal with. But at the time, we made it our first priority was restore water supply. So most of it was dealt with, except for a Tonga waterworks. This is a waterworks that was completely washed away. Obviously, to build a new waterworks would have taken a while. So that was what we had to deal with afterwards. That took a while. But most of the other problems were dealt with.
Very well. Thank you so much for weighing in on this matter. Thank you for your time. Acting Deputy City Manager for Trading Services at eThekwini Municipality, Ednick Msweli, giving us more on this issue of water in Inanda.